Okay, so we are going to pick up on phase 2 of community ecology. This is part 1. Again, it's a big lecture, so I wanted to split it into different phases. That way, each phase is going to be about 45 minutes, kind of like what we would do in a traditional lecture during a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday lecture. Here's your content. And then the next phase, here's your content. That way, it's not one massive giant file and hours of lecture all in a row. So again, phase 2 continues where we left off in the last one, where we were talking about predator-prey relationships and all those different prey defense mechanisms. As I mentioned, if prey were completely helpless, they would have all been eaten and have gone extinct. That then would cause a predator population to crash because there's no food. So prey can defend themselves in all sorts of different ways. So the next picture here, this is a way prey have evolved to defend themselves, and it's through what we call mimicry. Now, mimicry comes in two categories, Batesian and Mullerian. And I'll go through the differences here as we talk about these examples. So Batesian mimicry. I want you guys to look at the two snakes and tell me which one's going to kill you. If you're very good and you're observant, you can identify the differences and recognize which snake is harmless and which snake is deadly. Okay, so again, guys, which one are you going to play with? One of these snakes, you're going to be fine. The other snake, you're going to be dead. So one of them is a king, the other one is a coral. There's a little saying, and it kind of varies from person to person. The general premises, red touches black, safe for Jack. Red touches yellow, kills a fellow. So look at the color of the bands. Red touches black. So right here you have red band touching the black band on both sides. So if you have red in the center and black on the edges, safe. Red touches black, safe for Jack. Red touches yellow, kills a fellow. So here's the red, and then there's the yellow. So this is a snake that will kill you in one bite. That's the coral snake. The king snake over here is completely harmless. It's a mimic. So in Batesian mimicry, the way this works, let me get some room here. The Batesian mimicry model only works if the population sizes are skewed. Okay, and I'm just going to make up numbers. Okay, so population of mimics has to be significantly smaller than the deadly population. So your mimics over here, your red touches black, safe for Jack mimic, you better have only a handful of those in that community. And then you need a bunch of the deadly ones. And the point with this is when a predator comes in, they see that snake. Wow, bright colored snake, easy to find, easy to get. Boom, predator comes in and attacks. And I want you to think about what animals would eat snakes. Snakes are predators, but there's another animal above them, or animals, species in the food chain above them. So let's say it's a hawk that comes in. That's supposed to be the talons of the hawk coming in. And there's some wings, and there's our hawk head, and that's supposed to be a beak. And that hawk comes in and grabs one of these snakes, and he's like, tasty, easy to get, I love it. Next time, maybe it gets this one and it goes, oh, that's a bad one. I don't like it. But it's going to keep coming back if its early experiences were killing these snakes that did not have a defense system. It has to get one of these first. And then the hawk says, never touching it again. Don't like it. Almost killed me, made me so sick. I'm not going to eat those snakes. I don't care if the other one looks kind of close. I'm just not going to mess with it. So the key here is the population of mimics has to be significantly smaller, and the mimic, let me move this out of the way. Okay, so again, the idea of Batesian, you act all scary, but you're not really scary. So here's a great Illinois example, Monarch and Viceroy. Now the Monarch has the defensive mechanism. The Monarch will consume milkweed and have a toxin that accumulates in its body, a thing called biomagnification. And this is in a good way, not the bad way that we'll get into later on. So they contain a toxin. They're defensive. The Viceroy doesn't have any defense system. No toxin. And if you eat a Viceroy, you're going to like it. Little birds, young birds in the spring, go out and find these butterflies that don't move real fast and are brightly colored. And if they eat the Viceroy, they're like, oh, that's easy to catch and it tastes good. Then they're going to go after monarchs when they see a monarch. So again, the key with Batesian, you need a large population of individuals that have the defense system. That's the key. We see lots of examples. I want you guys to look for those things. Go out and try to get outside and see these things. This is all part of community ecology. The other type of mimicry is known as Müllerian mimicry. Both species in Müllerian have defense systems. The population size doesn't matter here. So when you look at these different butterflies, these are in the genus Heliconius, it doesn't matter how many you have of each population. They all have the defense system. And there's just subtle little differences between species. But again, it doesn't matter. They all are tasting bad. They all have toxin pollutants. Again, let's jump back to an Illinois example. Which of these can sting? Both. They both have venom. They both can sting. On the left, you have your friend the honeybee, which we like because they pollinate billions of dollars of food, but they have a little stinger here. Make it more noticeable. That hurts. On the right, you have a yellow jacket. We don't like them because they can sting and they can hurt as well. So these guys both are packed with a defensive system. They mimic each other. Now there are other members of this group, what we call Hymenoptera, that do not have defense systems. Those then would be Batesian mimics. So it's crazy is within all these different what we call bee and wasp stinging insects, some are mimics that have defense systems, the Müllerian mimics. Others do not have a defense system. Those are the Batesian mimics. So you really need to start, again, understanding better what species are there and what their defensive systems are. So, okay, another species interaction to mention here. Parasitism. So in parasitism, the parasite gains food and a home, shelter, territory, whatever. The host loses some health but is not killed. So the goal of the parasite is not to kill the host. It's, hey, I just want to use you to reproduce and have a bunch of babies and do my thing, fulfill my ecological niche. So Fleas on your dog? Hopefully not on you. Bed bugs, ticks, mosquitoes, mites. I want you guys to go back through the different groups we've talked about and think about all the species that have parasitic ecological roles. There are fungus that are parasites. There are bacteria that are parasites. There are plants that are parasites. There are animals that are parasites. There are protists that are parasites. Every kingdom, every supergroup, everything we've talked about, we can find examples of parasites within them. Now, what I want you to do is come up with an example of a vertebrate. Phylum Chordata, subphylum Vertebrata, a vertebrate that is a parasite as a species. I had a roommate in college who was a parasite. Never paid rent, drank my beer, ate my food. He didn't want to leave. He had it great. Hurt me, didn't kill me. But as a species, come up with a vertebrate. I'm going to give you one example. You need to come up with another example. So here is a vertebrate parasite. It's called the Candiru. It's a South American catfish. It's only about 5-6 centimeters in length. Not a big fish, but it has the typical catfish anatomy. So the fins come out, those bony fins, they got the little barbs on them, and they stick out to the sides here. They lack that dorsal one. So Candiru swim in fresh water in South America, and they're attracted to specific amino acids. They tend to parasitize fish, other vertebrates, and go after bigger fish. They'll go into the gills, they'll latch on, they'll kind of chew on the gills and get a little meal. Where we come into contact is if we are in the water and we pee. We produce the same amino acids that those Candiru can detect. So now the problem is they smell those amino acids, they detect them, and then they swim to the source of the amino acids, which means, yep, up your urethra. So they go up, and then they flip those little fins out to lodge themselves in place. Yeah, unpleasant. Real-life vertebrate parasite. For those of you who want more disgusting detail, go to River Monsters. That show, you can get it on Netflix, probably on Prime. I'm sure you could even Google, find it on YouTube. But check out River Monsters. And the host there's an episode where he interviews people who have been parasitized by Candirus. So, all right, one last parasitic relationship to mention, and then we'll move into some happier relationships. So this is known as brood parasitism. In brood parasitism, one species uses another species to raise their offspring. And I'm just going to make it easy. Species A so that's what's going on here. This is the baby cowbird. This is a sparrow. Mama sparrow's feeding the baby cowbird. Cowbirds have parasitized the sparrows. These are in Illinois. So what Mama Cowbird will do is lay her egg in the nest of somebody else and then leave. She's gone. She's out. The other parent comes back and, oh, got an extra egg. Sits on that egg, takes care of that egg, raises that baby, takes care of it like its own. Now the sparrow has lost reproductive opportunity to raise somebody else's kid. So if this is to be successful, the parasite cannot parasitize the same species over and over and over, because then there wouldn't be any more sparrows. So brood parasitism, weird example, but it's out there. We can see it in our backyards. All right, we'll talk more in the next part.